Why would 5 men starve to death next to a pantry full of food? This is the cold question that sits at the heart of the Yuba County Five case. It is a question that has no easy answer. It has echoed for decades, a chilling and persistent puzzle. The story is so strange, so deeply unsettling, that many have called it the American Dyatlov Pass. That comparison brings a heavy feeling. It makes one think of deep snow, of profound fear, and of an ending that defies all logical explanation. The facts of the case are simple enough, but they do not add up. To understand the mystery, we must first know the men. They were 5 friends from Yuba County, California. They were often called the Boys: Jack Madruga, Jackie Hewitt, William Sterling, Ted Weiher, Gary Mathias. They were a close-knit group. All of them had mild intellectual disabilities or psychiatric conditions, but they lived full lives. They were known and loved in their community. They were not adventurers or risk-takers. They shared a powerful bond, centered around their love for basketball. They played on a team together, the Gateway Gators. They practiced hard. They celebrated their wins. They supported each other through their losses. The night of February 24th, 1978 began with excitement. The 5 friends piled into Jack Madruga's 1969 Mercury Montego. It was a turquoise and white car that Jack cherished. They were driving about 50 miles north from Yuba City to Chico. Their favorite college basketball team, the UC Davis Aggies, was playing. They were big fans. The game was an important one. After the game, they stopped at a convenience store in Chico. They bought snacks and drinks. A clerk at the store remembered them. She said they seemed happy and calm. They were just 5 friends heading home after a fun night. Their drive home should have been straightforward. They needed to take Highway 99 south. It was a familiar route. But somewhere along the way, they made a wrong turn. Instead of heading south toward home, their car ended up on a remote mountain road in the Plumas National Forest. This road was unpaved, winding, and treacherous, especially in late February. It was a logging road, not a highway. It was not a shortcut. The road climbed higher and higher into the mountains. The weather grew colder. Snow began to cover the ground. The Mercury Montego was not a vehicle built for these conditions. The decision to take this route seems impossible to understand. Something must have prompted this detour. No one knows what it was. Several days after the men went missing, their car was discovered. A forest ranger found the Mercury Montego parked on the snowy mountain road. It was far from any main highway. The location was strange and isolated. The car was stuck in a snowdrift, but not badly. Several men could have easily pushed it free. When the ranger looked inside, the mystery only deepened. The car was unlocked. One of the windows was rolled down. The keys were still in the ignition. There was no sign of a struggle. There was no blood. The car itself was in perfect working order and had a quarter tank of gas. Inside the car, investigators found clues that were both ordinary and deeply puzzling. Wrappers from the snacks bought in Chico, carton of milk, soda can, book, basketball program from the game. It looked as if the men had simply stopped for a moment and walked away. Wallets, identification left behind. They left behind everything a person would normally take with them. The scene gave the impression that they expected to come right back, but they never did. The condition of the car made no sense. If it had broken down, why was it in working order? If it was stuck, why did they not try to push it out? Even more confusing was the fact that they abandoned a perfectly good shelter. The car offered protection from the wind and the snow. They could have stayed inside, run the heater, waited for help to arrive. For months, there was no sign of the 5 men. The winter was harsh. Heavy snow blanketed the mountains, making search efforts nearly impossible. The families waited in agony. They held on to hope. But as the weeks turned into months, that hope began to fade. The snow was too deep. The area was too vast. The men had vanished without a trace, leaving only their empty car behind. The case grew cold. Then, in early June of 1978, the snow finally began to melt. The high country became accessible again. A group of people on motorcycles, exploring the area, came across a Forest Service trailer. It was a trailer used as a shelter for forestry workers, about 20 miles from where the car had been found. As they approached the trailer, they noticed a broken window. When they peered inside, they made a horrifying discovery. They saw a body. The long wait for answers was over. The body inside the trailer was identified as Ted Weiher. He was lying on a bed, carefully wrapped in 8 sheets, as if someone had tucked him in. He had grown a long beard. His feet were severely frostbitten. Ted Weiher had starved to death. He had lost nearly 100 pounds. He had wasted away in a place that should have offered salvation. The discovery was a terrible blow, and it raised a host of new, even more troubling questions. Section 6. The paradox of the trailer. The Forest Service trailer should have been a place of refuge. It was a sturdy, insulated shelter. It was protection against the brutal mountain winter. When investigators entered the trailer where Ted Weiher's body was found, they were confronted with the greatest paradox of the entire case. The trailer was fully stocked with food and supplies. On the shelves, there were dozens of C-ration cans. These were military-style meals, filled with beans, filled with stew, filled with fruit cocktail, and other preserved items. There was enough food in that trailer to keep 5 men alive for a year. The food was not hidden. It was clearly visible. Some of the cans had been opened, but not with a can opener. They had been punctured open with a tool, perhaps a pocket knife. About a dozen cans had been opened, but the contents of most of them had not been eaten. Food was left in the cans. This meant the men, or at least some of them, knew the food was there. They had access to it. They had even managed to open some of it. Yet in this place of relative abundance, Ted Weiher had slowly starved to death. The question is why? The trailer also had other means of survival: blankets, bedding that had been used, furniture, paperback books to pass the time. Most importantly, a propane tank connected to a heating system. The men could have turned on the heat. They could have been warm. But the propane tank was full, and the heat had never been turned on. They had matches. They had books. They could have easily started a fire in the wood-burning stove inside the trailer. But they did not. They lived and died in the cold. This failure to use available resources is at the heart of the mystery. Section 7. The strange fate of Ted Weiher. The death of Ted Weiher is the most haunting part of this story. He was found lying on a bed, wrapped in sheets like a shroud. This careful arrangement suggests that he was not alone when he died. One of his friends likely stayed with him until the very end, covering him to provide warmth or dignity. Starvation. Hypothermia. His body showed the devastating effects of a long, slow decline. He had wasted away over a period of many weeks. He may have been alive in that trailer for as long as 3 months. The strangest detail was on the nightstand next to his bed. His wallet, cash still inside, his watch. Several open food cans. He had spent his final days and weeks lying next to food that could have saved his life. Why did he not eat? One theory: his feet were so severely frostbitten, he was in constant excruciating pain. He may have been unable to get up or even think clearly. The pain might have been so overwhelming that he lost the will to live. He may have simply given up. Extreme cold, fear, hunger, these can cause profound psychological distress. He may have entered a state of confusion, no longer capable of rational decisions. Perhaps he no longer understood what the cans of food were for. Or perhaps he was waiting for his friends to come back with help. He might have been trying to save the food for them. He might have died out of a misguided sense of loyalty. The image of Ted Weiher, wrapped in sheets, is a powerful, tragic symbol of this mystery. Section 8. The missing man and lingering clues. While 4 of the 5 men were eventually found, one remains missing to this day. Gary Mathias was never located. His disappearance deepens the mystery. Gary had a history of schizophrenia, but he was managing it with medication. He also had basic military experience. Some thought if anyone could survive, it would be him. His family held out hope for years. They imagined he made it out and started a new life, perhaps too confused to remember the past. The only clue was a pair of his tennis shoes, found inside the Forest Service trailer, suggesting Gary had been in the trailer with Ted Weiher. But he did not die there. Leaving his shoes behind is deeply strange. One theory: he put on Ted's shoes. The shoes were larger and might have been better for swollen, frostbitten feet. Investigators believe Gary survived the longest. He likely cared for Ted, wrapping him in sheets, and he likely walked away after Ted died. Where did he go? A trail was found, footprints in melting snow showing someone walking away deeper into the woods. The trail eventually disappeared. Did Gary succumb to the elements? Did he fall into a river and wash away? Or did something else happen to him? No trace, not a bone or a scrap of clothing, has ever been found. The forest sometimes gives up its secrets, but it has kept Gary's. His absence leaves a gaping hole. Was he the last alive? Did he hold the key to what happened? We will likely never know. In the end, after all the years and all the speculation, we are left with a story that resists a simple conclusion. The trail of evidence goes cold, leaving us at a crossroads with 2 main theories. Each one attempts to explain the inexplicable choices the men made.